Hey, good day to you. Jason here, Birchfield Family Farm, Oxford, Ohio. Grass-fed red Devon cattle and St. Croix sheep. They're ways out there. And chickens in a regenerative ag system here, rotational grazing, amp grazing, whatever you want to call it. It seems to be working out for us. We got a really chilly day today. The sun's out, which is very nice, but we're down below 0 degrees Fahrenheit with the wind chill. Good word today is from Thessalonians 4, 11 and 12. Make it your ambition to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, and to work with your hands, just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders, and so that you will not be dependent on anybody. Can you imagine if our ambitions as a people and as a culture changed to more readily embrace these instructions here, rather than fame or fortune or being well known, to simply strive to lead a quiet life, to make it our ambition to not only lead a quiet life, but to work with the hands. I think there's a lot of honor in that, something we believe in here on the farm. I want to talk today about hay, and we're in the thick of the hay season here. Let's talk about how we save over half the cost of just traditionally feeding hay. We save over half of that cost with a pretty simple method here. We primarily feed out 2 different types of hay in the wintertime. Most of our hay that we do, it's on these round bales. They're 6 foot high. I'm just under 6 foot. They do tend to shrink down a little bit. These were made back last summer. We do buy our hay. But we also feed square bales, small square bales. You can see one of those here. Everybody's pretty familiar with those. These guys here, these small squares, are about 50 pounds a piece, whereas these big rounds are right around 1,200 pounds. There's a context to everybody's situation here, but our situation is such that we do buy some square bales, but I prefer to feed the rounds because they're so much cheaper. Square bales are really convenient, okay? You just load them up, take them out. You can take them anywhere by hand. You don't have to crank a machine. And we put out half dozen squares on a day like today for our flurd, and we're good. Everybody's fine. Doesn't hardly take any time, but it's incredibly expensive. And you run the numbers here, we pay about $60 for a 1,200 pound round bale, and I pay about $6 for a 50 pound square. Now you do that math, there's about 24 50 pound square bales in one of these 1,200 pound rounds. One of these rounds is about 58% less cost than feeding out the 24 squares. Again, crazy convenient on the squares. There's a place for those. But if you're wanting to save over half the cost, then putting out rounds really becomes pretty advantageous. The problem with rounds that we've found is we're just a small farm here. I don't even own a tractor, okay, is putting them out. It's so labor intensive by hand. You got a tractor, great, crank it, take them out on the spear and put them out. Even doing that, though, it doesn't really work for us here because you have so much waste. People say, well, why don't you use a hay ring? Put a hay ring out and take it out in a tractor and dump it in a hay ring. You can do that, and it's a lot more efficient to feed these rounds in a hay ring. A couple problems with that. Number one, we run sheep and cattle together. Our sheep would never eat. The cattle would never let them in that hay ring. They would, the term bullying, that comes from literally our bulls out here. That's what they do. They guard the feed, and so you have to put out multiple piles. So a hay ring really doesn't work for us, plus our horned cattle. Outside of a hay ring, we've tried in years past, rolling these out by hand. If I get the whole family out here, we can roll them out, cut them, and just roll the whole thing out. Problem with that, again, is so much waste. We figured out a system over the years, making it a little more efficient. Just gonna peel that netting off the top and get that out of the way on both sides so all the netting's gone. And the next step is here, we're going to use battery-powered chainsaw here. And we're gonna cut this thing, and there's kind of a technique to doing that. Okay, so up on top of the bale here, Chili Dog's with me. This is Milwaukee's 14-inch top bar handle saw. I'm very hesitant to use a gas-powered saw because your exhaust comes out right here. I had trees that I've cut on with a gas-powered saw, and when they're dry, when they're dead and really dry, I can see hot coals when I'm done because of that that exhaust. Having all this hay we've got out here, we get, you know, a bale that's on fire, not wanting to do that. So I think an electric saw is your best bet. We're gonna turn this saw around and we're gonna cut from this way back. You try it like this, and it's gonna, you can see the way the saw runs, you're gonna gum up the saw down here. You're gonna get all that hay in there and it gums up. So if you turn it around like this, it's throwing hay out that way. And sometimes it still does clog up, but we've been able to get through these with just one plunge cut. Takes about probably 30 seconds to do one of these. I like coming this way when I'm up against another bale. I could go the other way, but if you do, make sure when you're coming out of the bale, out of the cut, the saw's gonna wanna do this. And so you really have to be, so if you come this way, you kind of butt up against that next bale and it works out well. Okay, so the next procedure here, and it's already happened, kind of happened on its own before I could get the camera going. But basically you can see how this thing right at the cut, it's fallen down, right? You can see my cut I made. Pull this cut section back, right like that, fold it over, right like that. And then we're just gonna do the same thing again, do another cut. We're just gonna, after the second cut, peel it back again, like that, right like that. Now, we have a middle here that can pretty easily just be popped out. So we have this section now. We could make another smaller cut on this to fold this out as well. I could roll this out. Honestly, we can probably just take this out and feed it. And then what we're gonna do after that is you've got all of these layers now that baler made. See, you can see them. And just pick yourself, you know, 1 or 2 layers and fold them over and roll them up. And you've got pretty close to a 50-pound square there. Makes it really convenient to cut one of these, lay it out, and then, you know, otherwise you're doing this on a bale. You're sitting here going like this, you know, trying to break it off. That's all you get every time. Taking the saw through it, it was 2 cuts, 30 seconds a cut maybe. That saw did not clog for me one time. Pretty cool to look at this. I mean, look at all these layers here. But just, I don't know, kind of a tip today, you know, for us buying in our hay, again, in all round bales, and just doing it this way and feeding out this way, yeah, it's a little bit more labor. 10 tons of hay a winter, feeding that out and that cost, we'd be at about $2,400 if we bought the squares, and buying all rounds, we're at about $1,000. So saving over half on our hay cost with, you know, sure, a little bit of labor here, but it's doable. You're not cranking a tractor, not using the hay rings or having a whole lot of waste. Since we don't roll out the rounds anymore, we've seen our hay consumption go down considerably with this method, with just putting out, you know, what you need every day. And again, that's an advantage and a convenience to the square bales, but this is a way, you know, to do that effectively with the rounds. So anyhow, hope that helps somebody today. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.